Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and I saw Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning and it was great. Now I was really looking forward to this movie. I'm a big fan of this franchise. While I started admittedly very late with Fallout, I've been a fan ever since. I was able to rewatch or at least watch for the first time a lot of the older Mission Impossible films, and I've grown to appreciate this franchise even more. And with this movie especially, I was really looking forward to it with how excellent Dead Reckoning was and how this movie looked to be a really solid continuation of that. Not only that, but also seemingly the final film in the franchise, even though Tom Cruise has stated he wants to keep making these movies forever. But with this being sold as the potentially maybe last Mission Impossible film, that also got my interest up. Add on to the fact that the movie itself looked really cool, and I'm happy to report that while it isn't amongst the top tier Mission Impossible films, this is still a very solid film in the franchise and one hell of an action film. I had a good time with this. Normally I start with my positives for the film first, but I actually want to start with my negatives for this one actually, as believe it or not, the start of the film is my least favorite part of the film, so it only makes sense to discuss that first and foremost. I was not too thrilled when the movie first started. The first hour or so really did not give a good first impression. It felt like a legacy sequel that came out like 20 years after what the original Mission Impossible felt like. Lots of callbacks, lots of flashbacks, lots of references, lots of catching up to remind viewers of the previous films and catch you up to speed for what's about to go on in this film, and it caused the movie to feel a bit uninteresting, dull, and tedious at times. There were still some cool, exciting moments here and there, but during this chunk of the film, I was sitting in my seat and going, "Oh no, is this going to be another Mission Impossible 2? Is this going to be a stinker of sorts? This movie ain't giving off the best first impression." And I will say, there are still some issues that persist throughout the movie afterward. Not as big as the first hour, but still some issues here. I didn't like the fact that for the majority of the film, the team was split up. You had one section of the team do this, and then you had Tom Cruise doing that, and it was basically like that for a good chunk of the film. And while, again, it wasn't bad or horrible or anything, it did make me miss out on the teamwork that we've established throughout these films, because that's one of the big highlights of these movies, seeing the team come together and trying to outwit the craziest scenarios. And the fact that they split them up for a majority of the film was rather disappointing, and it continues the trend of these Mission Impossible films where the villains aren't really the best written and most well-rounded characters. The actors are doing great. I think the actor who played Gabriel did an excellent job. He really handed up, especially near the ending, but as a whole, again, these villains just ain't nothing to really write about or anything special to them. They're just the generic bad guy wanting to end the world or something like that. Nothing really stands out to them outside of their performance and which movie they're in. But now on to the good stuff, because this movie is so good. It's so cool, everybody. All right, and let's stop fanboying here, because yeah, this movie is really solid. Once that hour or so stops and we head into the second hour of the film, basically when the real mission is afoot and gets going, the movie really picks up the speed. That's where you see the quality elevate to the heights of its predecessors, and the movie just kicks it into maximum overdrive. Just the threat of the entity is just the way it's handled here, while not as intense or suspenseful as the previous one. The lengths these people go through to just try to find a way to at least get one jump ahead of it is really creative, really insane, really intense, and a whole lot of fun. You really get the sense of threat and danger with this, artificial intelligence, and there's a lot at stake here, and you really feel the weight of the situation as much as the characters do. Again, they really do a good job of building tension and making the sequences feel as grand as they should be. And speaking of those sequences, there are a lot of action sequences and stunts and just set pieces in general, and they are stunning, heart-pounding, intense, exhilarating, chair gripping, whatever else you need to describe. A lot of great moments. These are easily some of my favorite action set pieces in the franchise, and they are really, really effective. And I mean really effective. The climax, I was gripping to my seat, my shirt, anything I could get a hold of. It was that intense. I felt my heart racing. In all honesty, I think if you have a serious heart condition, you probably should not see this movie. It gets really intense as well. Not just the big climax sequence with the two planes, but also a sequence in a submarine gets really cool and really fun, and also very suspenseful at a point. Lots of great hand-to-hand combat and action sequences scattered throughout the film, and Tom Cruise doing all the stunts is just so cool, especially at his age, and he's still putting his life in this amount of danger is honestly really respectable and a bit terrifying. It adds to the suspense because oh my god, he's actually doing all of this. Is he gonna make it? The characters are also still very likable and charming, and you want to see them put an end to this threat. Obviously, Ethan Hunt is so charming and likable. Tom Cruise has just nailed this performance. You can tell he just loves playing this character and just doing all of this. Like I said earlier, even though this is supposedly the final film, he has stated that he wants to keep doing not just Mission Impossible movies, but just movies like this in general, well into his 80s, as a matter of fact. And Godspeed, sir. If you're willing to do it, go ahead. I hope they're as good as this movie is. But yeah, Ethan Hunt is still a very charming, very likable lead. I love the new team they formed from Dead Reckoning, and I think they get a lot much more to do here. They can be very fun, very entertaining to watch. I would like to see them more collaborative with Ethan as opposed to being separate throughout the majority of the movie, but when it focuses on them, it can be really fun and interesting. And what surprised me is that there were a couple of legacy characters from the original movies. I won't go into too much detail, but they have a much bigger role in this movie than I expected, and they were a much welcome addition. It wasn't just like a forced cameo or anything. No, they actually served a purpose, and their purpose was necessary to the movie. And I guess as a quote-unquote finale, again, you never say never, you never know, I think it did its job. It concluded things. It certainly wrapped things up from the first part. This was originally Dead Reckoning Part 2 and so on and so forth. But it wrapped that up well, and it definitely satisfied me as someone who has really enjoyed these movies for quite some time. Not as much as those who have been around since day one, but as I felt the sense of finality, and I think it ended the franchise with also setting things up, opening things up for, like, in case they say, hey, we're going to do another one. I think it also leaves that opening slightly to where I can go, yeah, I'm down for another Mission Impossible film. So yeah, overall, despite it being one of the weaker films in the franchise, a good Mission Impossible movie is still a good Mission Impossible movie. Outside of the hour or so that's not very good, and some issues with, like, the characters, the villain, and this is still a really fun, entertaining action film. It's a great send-off to the franchise. Possibly the characters are still likable, the action sequences are still great, and overall it's still a fun Mission Impossible movie. If you have been a big fan of this franchise as much as I am, I'd still say go check it out. Yeah, it's not as good as the other ones, but like I said, a Mission Impossible movie is still a Mission Impossible movie. I think you're going to be satisfied. I think you're still going to get everything you wanted out of this. This was a blast. I cannot recommend it enough. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So those are my thoughts on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. What did you all think of it? If you've seen it, did you like it? Did you hate it? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all those social media links at the end of the video. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.